I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is UN Insider.
Coming up.
I urge the parties and all relevant partners to seize this opportunity to establish a credible political path to a better future for Palestinians, Israelis, and the broader region.
A major breakthrough in the Middle East. Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire deal that could free hostages and significantly scale up humanitarian aid to Gaza. The crisis in Haiti grows worse as new numbers bring perspective to the toll gang violence is taking on civilians.
We would like to say bring the peace in the mind of men and women through education, culture and sciences.
Furthering diplomacy through culture and heritage, a conversation about UNESCO's versatile functions. Next.
After more than a year of fighting, Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire agreement. The deal could end the fighting that has devastated Gaza and see the release of hostages taken during the October 7th attacks in Israel. The agreement contains 3 phases. The first is slated to last 6 weeks. Israel would reduce its military presence inside Gaza during that time. Hamas would release 33 hostages, and Israel would release hundreds of detained Palestinians. Additional releases would come in later phases. A significant increase in humanitarian aid for Gaza is also expected in the first phase. Celebrations broke out in Gaza as word of the pact emerged. The ceasefire is expected to go into effect Sunday. It will be the first formal ceasefire since November of 2023. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is welcoming the breakthrough.
The United Nations stands ready to support the implementation of this deal and scale up the delivery of sustained humanitarian relief to the countless Palestinians who continue to suffer. It is imperative that this ceasefire removes the significant security and political obstacles to delivering aid across Gaza so that we can support a major increase in urgent life-saving humanitarian support. The humanitarian situation is at catastrophic levels, and I call on all parties to facilitate the rapid, unhindered and safe humanitarian relief for all civilians in need. From our side, we will do whatever is humanly possible, aware of the serious challenges and constraints that we face. But we expect our efforts to be matched by other humanitarian actors, the private sector, and bilateral initiatives. This deal is a critical first step, but we must mobilize all efforts to also advance broader goals, including the preservation of the unity, contiguity, and integrity of the occupied Palestinian territory, because Palestinian unity is essential for achieving lasting peace and stability, and I emphasize that unified Palestinian governance must remain a top priority. I urge the parties and all relevant partners to seize this opportunity to establish a credible political path to a better future for Palestinians, Israelis, and the broader region, ending the occupation and achieving a negotiated 2-state solution with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace and security, in line with international law, relevant UN resolutions and previous agreements remain an urgent priority. Only through a viable 2-state solution can the aspirations of both peoples be fulfilled. I pay tribute to the civilians who have lost their lives, including UN personnel and humanitarian workers. And the United Nations is steadfast in its commitment to supporting all efforts that promote peace, stability, and a more hopeful future for the people of Palestine and Israel and across the region.
From the Security Council to the briefing room and beyond, Xu Deja is monitoring the latest developments inside the UN. Deja.
Yes, Elaine. This is a busy week here in the United Nations. Well, first, both the President of the General Assembly, Philemon Yang, and the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, briefed the Assembly on their priorities for 2025. Philemon Yang outlined priorities of peace and security in Africa, combating the illicit use of small arms and light weapons, preserving human dignity in armed conflict, eliminating child labor, financing for development, and turbocharging the SDGs, including through digitalization.
My team and I intend to walk the talk and deliver on my promises to you, the member states of the United Nations. For the challenges we face require that we commit to work together to achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves.
For his part, Mr. Guterres emphasized 4 urgent challenges that require immediate attention: runaway conflicts, rampant inequalities, raging climate crisis, and out-of-control technology. When addressing the climate crisis, he pointed to the recent wildfires in California as a stark example.
The Pandora's box has also let loose the climate crisis that is ravaging and savaging our world. Look no further than the hills of Los Angeles. It has gone from the home of disaster movies to a scene of disaster.
The Secretary General traveled to Beirut to meet Lebanon's newly elected President Joseph Aoun, along with other officials. He also visited UNIFIL positions in southern Lebanon. And here is what Mr. Guterres had to say before his departure.
Let's really support the Lebanese people, support the Lebanese president, and hope that Lebanon will now find a way to consolidate its institutions and that peace will prevail in Lebanon.
This has also been a busy week here in the Security Council. The Council discussed several pressing topics, including the future of UNRWA, the conflict in Ukraine, UNIFIL, Libya, and the ongoing crisis in Yemen. And here's what Hans Grundberg, the Secretary General's Special Envoy for Yemen, shared with the Council.
The context has become increasingly internationalized, with Ansar intensifying its strikes in Israel and continuing attacks in the Red Sea, prompting retaliatory strikes by the United States and United Kingdom, as well as Israel on Yemen. Recent Israeli airstrikes have damaged critical civilian infrastructure, including the port of Hodeidah and Sana'a International Airport.
Now, I know what you've all been waiting for, the ceasefire deal in Gaza. The Secretary General has, of course, issued a statement urging all parties to honor the agreement. But what are other diplomats saying about this deal?
Ambassador, what's your reaction to the ceasefire deal? That
we welcome the deal.
will the Security Council do anything about that?
We'll see.
I think we're satisfied that they got to the ceasefire. We waited long for ceasefire. We waited too long for ceasefire. Now it's there, and we hope that it starts getting implemented on Sunday. And then I think we'll have all of us a lot of work to do, starting with humanitarian situation, delivering humanitarian aid, so that people will not die of bombs anymore, but we have to make sure that they don't die of hunger.
And what post-conflict plans does the UN have for Gaza?
Has the Secretary General ever talked to anyone in the region or any world leaders about the post-war plan for Gaza? What would that look like?
We had been envisioning what this would be once a war ends. First, of course, we want to make sure that we get to the end of the conflict. But yes, he is in touch and will continue to be in touch, trying to draw up a plan. And of course, part of that is, as you just pointed out, something that needs to be done in conformity with the two-state solution.
And that's all from me. Elaine.
Xu Deja, thanks.
"2025 must be the year of keeping promises to developing countries. to intensify our efforts to make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality for all people in all places, to put an end to poverty and hunger, transform education and create jobs, and provide equitable and affordable access to energy, technology, finance and markets, essential elements for developing countries to prosper.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the G77 plus China this week. It is the UN's largest intergovernmental organization of developing countries. The bloc was established in 1964. It has grown to include 134 member states. This week, Iraq took over the group's presidency. Let's take a look at some of the other issues on the UN's agenda.
China reiterates that military means are not the way out, and that violence for violence will only drive the conflict into a vicious circle of spiraling escalation.
China's Deputy Permanent Representative Geng Shuang spoke as the Security Council spotlighted the situation in Yemen this week. Attacks between Houthi forces and Israel have escalated recently, and Yemen is facing other challenges, including growing humanitarian needs. More than 1 million people in Haiti have been forced to flee their homes. The number of internally displaced people in the Caribbean nation has tripled since the end of 2023. Gang violence in the capital is driving the displacement crisis.
All the data sets are quite clear. We are heading in the wrong direction.
WMO spokesperson Claire Nullis confirmed 2024 was the hottest year ever recorded. The agency says a decade of record global temperatures are putting the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement in grave danger.
Coming up.
Cultural diplomacy is key to building peace and consolidating peace and promoting development across the world.
UN Insider.
Whether it's about your education, the home you live in, or the items you buy, your money has a story to tell. Because every business story is a human story. Global Business.
Around the world, people are counting down to the Lunar New Year. Revelers will welcome the Year of the Snake on January 29th. In China, preparations are underway for the family reunions and celebrations that are a part of Spring Festival. The observance was recently added to UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. 44 elements of China's culture have been inscribed on the list since its inception in 2008. The UN will mark the Lunar New Year as a holiday for the second year in a row. And in New York, some New Year festivities are already underway. This week, I co-hosted a special event presented by China Media Group called Prelude to the Spring Festival Gala. Every year, CMG televises a Spring Festival Gala that draws millions of viewers. Our Prelude captures that same spirit. It's a celebration of Chinese culture and features remarks from diplomatic leaders as well as musical performances and showcases of art and fashion. We'll bring you more from that event on next week's show. The United Nations mission revolves around tackling the world's most challenging problems, but it also celebrates culture and traditions. UNESCO is the UN agency that spotlights cultural heritage. I sat down with Sharaf Amimed, Senior Advisor to the Director General of UNESCO. When a lot of people think of UNESCO, they think of the cultural side, the ancient side, but really it's much more than that.
UNESCO has a very large mandate. It covers education, culture, sciences, information and communication. So indeed, it's one of the flagship, let's say, initiatives of UNESCO is the World Heritage Sites, and we are very proud of. It's not only about the buildings, but it's also bringing countries and people around universal notion of heritage. But what's very important for us is the main role that we have within the UN system, and that is to what we like to say bring the peace in the mind of men and women through education, culture, and sciences.
How can G20 nations incorporate intercultural dialogues into their education systems to foster inclusion and more social cohesion?
The world is changing, and we have a new generation that has access to social media, has access to new technologies, and that's the role of UNESCO, is to accompany our societies and the countries in adapting to new realities and new way of doing things. As you mentioned, intercultural dialogue is one of those concepts that is very dear to UNESCO, very important in terms of social cohesion internally within the same country, but also in terms of collaboration among nations. So one way for us to promote intercultural dialogue is by introducing some of these concepts in curricula, is by also training teachers on how to teach intercultural dialogue.
You also are focusing on the youth and the role that they will play in all of this as well. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Youth are in many countries, especially in Africa and in some other developing countries, the large majority of the population. So we have to cater to the needs of young people in terms of education, but also in terms of access to decent work, in terms of access to health, and so on and so forth. So it has been a focus for the UN system in general and for UNESCO for quite some time. Youth are agents of change. We work with them in countries where we feel the need that we need to involve them in peace building. We work with youth in countries where we feel that they also have a role in terms of intercultural dialogue.
And when you look across the world right now and see a lot of geopolitical tension, how important is cultural diplomacy to maybe build some bridges and fill those gaps?
Cultural diplomacy is key to building peace and consolidating peace and promoting development across the world. It teaches you history, teaches you common understanding of humanity. It brings young people and all generations together around common values.
You know that technology is changing at the speed of light. How are you using technology to get those messages out? And then also want to ask you about AI and the role of artificial intelligence.
I mean, at UNESCO, we believe that new technologies, including artificial intelligence, are very good positive developments in our societies, as long as we use them for the benefits of public good and for the benefits of our societies. Technologies can improve access to education, can improve access to water, to health, and so on and so forth. Our role is to bring in and develop frameworks that help develop these technologies in an ethical manner. So we have a lot of work and work stream on how to use AI in education, or AI in culture, AI with youth, AI in promoting gender equality. So overall, we are very optimistic and positive about the development of new technologies, including AI, but there's a need of a framework, a need of collaboration, so that it is developed in an ethical manner.
Everywhere we look around the world, we're seeing the impacts of more severe weather and storms and climate change. How can cultural heritage be protected amid this fight against climate change?
Indeed, one of the challenges of preservation of cultural heritage is natural disaster, or also caused by climate change and its consequences. There are many ways of trying to either mitigate and protect cultural heritage against such natural disasters. For us, one way we support is to build the capacity of managers of sites, and again, sharing experiences and trying to work more on prevention and be much more prepared against natural disasters.
And really just driving home the message to the decision makers, the leaders, because they're already being asked to pay their share.
I mean, our role is indeed always to keep issues like climate change on the agenda of the leaders. And one way we do is we keep providing data, and sometimes new data, showcase the real impact, but also provide solutions and how we can mitigate. So our role is always keep some of the global challenges on the agenda of world leaders, presenting the benefits of working on, for instance, in this case, fighting climate change or promoting environmental education, training teachers on environmental challenges, and so on and so forth.
Any role the private sector can play in all of this as well?
The private sector is very key. They have the means to invest on research and innovation and provide also solutions that can also contribute to economic development, but also protect the environment. We don't think at UNESCO that these are two competing goals. To the opposite. We can aim for economic growth and economic development while protecting the environment, or economic growth thanks to protection of heritage, economic growth thanks to ecotourism and sustainable tourism. The private sector has to be also leading in raising awareness about these issues.
Mr. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Coming up.
The idea is to create an innovation hub that connects science with these great universities.
UN Insider.
Modern vitality, born of ancient civilizations. Asia exemplifies diversity in its best sense and welcomes changes at the fastest pace. Asia Today brings you the headlines from the most populous continent, puts in focus politics, economies, and faces, and takes you on a tour of the sights from the region and beyond.
The UN has designated January 24th as International Day of Education, proclaiming education as a human right, a public good, and a public responsibility. In Brazil, a prestigious mathematics institute has partnered with some of the country's biggest companies to spur innovation. Rio de Janeiro's port area is sprinkled with historic landmarks and colonial-era homes. But these days, the focus is on the future. The city has invested $7.7 million to build a 10,000 square meter innovation hub, meant to attract the country's brightest students and companies. The idea is to create what many hope will be the starting point of Latin America's Silicon Valley. Even its name makes that connection clear: Porto Maravilha. The world-renowned Institute of Pure and Applied Mathematics, which was founded in 1952, opened its first undergraduate program in the hub called Impatech. And companies like Electrobras are embracing the initiative as a way to address some of the country's biggest challenges, including climate change and soaring demand for energy.
The Porto Maravilha concept came up several years ago. The idea is to create an innovation hub that connects science with these great universities. The companies involved and the desire to transform Rio into the Silicon Valley of sustainability and energy transition. I think everything converged here into this hub, and it will become this great connector.
Electrobras is Latin America's largest electric utility company, generating nearly a third of Brazil's energy, primarily from low-emission sources.
The students have just arrived. These are excellent students who are focused on science and innovation. We're definitely going to see something happening here at the Impatech Hub.
Felipe Gil is from a small city in the south of Brazil. Like everyone at Impatech, he's a distinguished and promising student. He's a 5-time gold medalist in what's known as OBMAP, or the Brazilian Mathematics Olympiad for public schools.
What makes Impatech stand out is that we are linked to IMPA. IMPA is an internationally recognized organization that connects the world's top talent, and we take classes with the IMPA researchers. In addition, we have access to the companies linked to the port. This networking web puts us at an advantage here at IMPA Tech. We wouldn't have this access at a regular university.
IMPA Tech offers free top-tier education in data science, computer science, math, and physics. The city and federal government invested heavily in the program in hopes of keeping the country's brightest students from looking for opportunities abroad.
It encourages students from the start to work on projects and connect with companies, likely boosting hiring for those eager to grow and innovate. So everyone has something to gain, right?
Students live in city-funded housing and receive financial support so they can focus entirely on their studies and their future.
For me and most of us here, financial and residential support is crucial.
Building a successful innovation hub is also about building community and getting people to fall in love with the area.
We go out together, we go to the beach nearby. There's no lack of activities in Rio, you know.
Students will take 4 years to graduate with a bachelor's degree in mathematics for technology and innovation. Every year, the program will bring 100 new students, and each week, new buildings seem to pop up, bringing Rio de Janeiro and Brazil closer to the future it dreams of. I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN Insider. I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is a special edition of UN Insider.
UN Insider serves as an important window for the global audience to better understand multilateral diplomacy.
It's very important for the media to cover the United Nations, to seek to understand and tell the story in ways that the average person in the street can understand.
I think it's very important that the media should contribute to conveying important messages about the reality of today's challenges.
UN Insider has come to the UN, and we at the UN are so grateful to have it here. It is the only dedicated TV program to what is happening in the UN, and it is reaching so many people with, as it says in its title, inside the UN stories.
Media plays an important role in providing objective information across the world.
We think that media has a strong power of uplifting, what we are trying to convey as messages as developing countries.
We need the mobilization of all peoples, of whole government and whole of society, and media can help us to be informed so that we also can make our part.
I think the media is fundamental to enable citizens across the world, first of all, to understand what is the rationale of having the United Nations. It's not that there is one place on planet Earth that will tell the rest of the world what to do. It is a much more complex story.